Please appreciate this presentation has been prepared with all sincerity and to the best of knowledge of students, teachers, and volunteers. We welcome words of encouragement and also suggestions for improvement. For use in academics or any kind of exams, please verify and correlate with your course books. For becoming an associate and or for sending contributions in different subjects including storytelling, please get in touch with your brief profile at baskinjoy@gmail.com. So we've discussed the idea of nation states in the previous lecture, and now we're going to talk about the first clear expression of nationalism, which is the French Revolution. The French Revolution wasn't the first time a group of people wanted to become a nation, but it was the first time it happened on a really large scale. So in 1789, France was a modern state, but it wasn't a nation state yet. It was under the rule of an absolutist government, and after the whole revolution thing happened, then it became a nation state. So there are a bunch of things that the revolutionaries did in order to create a common identity, which is, as we discussed, required for a nation state. So the first thing that they did was to create this sense of common identity was that they created these two ideas of la patrie and les citoyens. So la patrie means the fatherland. जैसे हम अभी इंडिया को अपनी मदरलैंड मानते हैं, French revolutionaries decided to call France their fatherland, and les citoyens means the citizen. So these two ideas, la patrie and les citoyens, emphasize a united community enjoying equal rights under a constitution. So मतलब है कि ये दोनों ideas, the fatherland and the citizen, ने फ्रांस को एक सपना दिया जिसमें सबके पास equal rights होंगे एक constitution के अंदर. So the second way the French revolutionaries created a common identity was through a new French flag, the French tricolor. So this new French flag, the French tricolor, replaced the old royal standard. तो इससे by replacing this old flag with the new flag, इससे सबको पता चल गया कि अब absolutist government की power खत्म हो गई है और एक नया era आने वाला है. And now the third way for creating a common identity was through the National Assembly. So this National Assembly was a body of active citizens, similar to how India has a parliament. So पहले National Assembly को Estates General कहते थे, पर जब revolutionaries आए उन्होंने इस Estates General का नाम को change करके National Assembly रख दिया. So now some other ways common identities were created after the French Revolution were through new hymns, new oaths, and new martyrs, which were commemorated. Another way common identities were created was through a central administrative system. So you can think of this central administrative system similar to India's central government, which formulates laws for all the Indians. So now ये एक central administrative system आ गया था जिसने uniform laws बनाए सारे country के लिए. Now the next thing which again helped in creating this notion of a nation state in France was internal customs and was the abolition. Let me re-say that, my bad. So the next thing that happened was that internal custom duties and dues were abolished. So मतलब है कि पहले फ्रांस में अगर एक चीज एक सिटी से दूसरी सिटी तक लेके जाना था किसी को, फिर उनको एक टैक्स देना पड़ता था. पर रेवोल्यूशनरीज ने फ्रांस के अंदर ये टैक्स हटा दिया ताकि बिजनेसेस अलग सिटीज में अपने आप के साथ ट्रेड कर पाए किसी भी टैक्स के बिना. So this removal of this tax between trade within the country allowed for greater movement of goods and services, allowed for free trade, and allowed for the economy to flourish. Now, the next thing which helped to create a nation state was a uniform system of weights and measures. So France में अब इसकी वजह से अब meters, liters, grams को use करना शुरू कर दिया. So they began to use a metric system of measurements. It's the same units of measurement that we use today, the meters, liters, and grams. And so with this metric system, we know that converting inside the metric system is extremely easy. And so, using this metric system, now trade could happen more easily in France as people could make conversions much faster. So, in this previous slide, as you can see, पहले revolutionaries ने टैक्स को खत्म कर दिया ताकि trade cheaper बन जाए, and then they made a uniform system of weights and measures, this metric system. So using this metric system, you don't have to, you can easily convert different units, different amount of goods, different amount of services, and that also happens to make free trade happen and also helps in flourishing and growing the economy. And so now, with all of these measures that the French revolutionaries took, they were able to construct this idea of a nation state in France. Oh yeah, one last thing. In the nation state, in order to create a nation state, they also discouraged regional dialects in France. And the French that was spoken in Paris became more encouraged. So, for example, Punjab में पंजाबी अलग-अलग तरीके से बोली जाती है अलग cities में. So, similarly, France was spoken in different ways in different regions in France. I'll go back to this map here. So, in this region, you'll have a different way of speaking French. This region, you'll have a different way. This region has a different way. So, all of these regions have different ways of speaking French. And so now these dialects were discouraged, and the French that was spoken in Paris got encouraged. So now, in order to unify the country, the revolutionaries wanted to make just one dialect popular, so that everyone could understand each other easily. तो जैसे पहले अगर ये यहाँ इन दोनों सिटीज में ट्रेड हो रही है, ये एक रीजन में है, ये दूसरी रीजन में है, तो इस रीजन की डायलेक्ट फ्रेंच की डायलेक्ट अलग होगी और इसकी अलग होगी. तो हमने पहले टैक्सेस खत्म कर दिए, हमने कन्वर्जन्स को आसान बना दिए, पर ये डायलेक्ट्स अभी भी ट्रेड मुश्किल बना रही है क्योंकि it's hard for these two regions to communicate with each other. But now that only one dialect is encouraged, the Parisian type of French is encouraged, now both of these regions can easily talk with each other, easily communicate with each other, and trade can happen more easily. And so now I'll come to the next point. Now that we've seen how all of these steps were taken in order to create a nation state in France, after this, a man named Napoleon Bonaparte rose to power in France. And after rising to power in France, he eventually became the Emperor of France. And after becoming the emperor, he changed France from being a democracy back into being a monarchy. And he invaded other parts of Europe, as you can see here. He invaded other parts of Europe and ended up creating the first French Empire. So he made this huge French empire by invading other pieces of land. For example, you can see Italy has been invaded here. Switzerland got invaded. Belgium got invaded. A lot of different types of countries got invaded. And in this empire that he created revolutionary principles in the administrative field, which made the entire system rational and efficient. So हम इन principles को Civil Code of 1804 या Napoleonic Code कहते हैं. So in this code, he did three things. First he abolished all privileges which were based on birth. So basically, he created a meritocracy. Now, the second thing he did was created this notion of equality before the law. So he created these concepts of justice and equality within his empire so that everyone gets equal laws. And now everyone gets equal rights, I mean. And now the third thing he did was that he secured the right to property. So indirectly, these three things in his code led to more things happening politically. So more things which were happening was that this code that he created, this ended up causing administrative divisions to be simplified. It allowed the feudal system to be abolished, which was similar to like a primitive form of slavery. So it's not really slavery, but it's like a form of slavery. That is what a feudal system is. So this form of slavery ended up being abolished. And the third thing was that peasants were freed from manorial dues. So manorial dues, these were like a form of tax which the peasants had to pay. And this tax basically didn't allow peasants to have any money left in order to relax, in order to buy the right amount of food, the right amount of luxury, the right amount of necessities. And so this code that he created before, it allowed the peasants to be free from manorial dues and allowed them to flourish. And so these were some changes that happened politically. Now, there were some changes that were brought economically as well. So, the first thing that happened as an economic change was that guild restrictions were removed. So, guild restrictions were basically laws which allowed one country to have total control over one type of trade. So, for example, one company had complete control over wool, another company had complete control over accounting, etc. So, when only one company has control over a good, this makes prices go up, and this also slows down innovation because a monopoly is created. And these laws, allowing only one company to have power over a good, were finally removed. So now multiple companies could make one form of good. This increased innovation because competition between companies rose, prices goes down, and innovation increases. And that's basically like a fundamental law in economics. And so the second economic change that happened after removing guilds was that the uniform system of weights and measures that I talked about. So before the revolutionaries, they had made introduced the metric system in France after the French Revolution. But what Napoleon did was he exported this metric system, this uniform system of weights and measures, and he made this type of system happen throughout his entire empire. So now throughout his entire empire, now there were uniform laws, there were standard weights and measures, and a common national currency. And all of this made it easier for producers and businesses to trade with each other. Because जब laws, measurements, और currencies अलग होते हैं, फिर it becomes difficult to make trade happen. क्योंकि जब भी एक जगह से दूसरी जगह जाओगे आप, तो आपको बहुत सारी conversions करने पड़ेंगी और तब computers तो होते नहीं थे. And so these conversions would take a long time, and so trade would happen slower. And so this uniformity that Napoleon introduced throughout his French Empire allowed easier trade to occur and again the economy to flourish. So now, initially, all the countries under Napoleon's rule were happy about these economic and administrative changes because, as we've talked about, these administrative changes gave almost everyone, equal rights under the constitution. It allowed people to have a central administrative system. Things were happening a lot faster than before, and the economic changes had allowed the economy to flourish. Trade was flourishing like it had never before. But with all of these good things that came with Napoleon's rules, over time, everyone who was under Napoleon's rule began to hate his empire, and they wanted to have a democracy again. Because remember, Napoleon destroyed democracy, even though he made good things happen in the sense of an economy. He did terrible things in terms of a political sense, because politically he destroyed democracy. He destroyed this concept of having an equal voice and having universal adult suffrage. So all of these things were removed, and so people wanted to have this sense of democracy again. And what Napoleon had been doing, he had been censoring the media, which is a big no-no for people that like democracy. He began recruiting people forcibly into his army. So people were against their will being picked up from their villages and being thrown into his army. And he was doing a lot of bad things, and basically this concept of democracy was destroyed, as I talked about before. So because democracy was destroyed, and most people love democracy, so resistance against Napoleon began to grow in countries where people wanted their democracy again. And so that brings us about to the end of this section in the rise of nationalism in Europe. Next time, we'll continue talking about how nationalism formed in Europe. And thank you.